The moment police bullets tore through a little girl's dog, the world stood still. They didn't know her father was the most lethal commander alive, trained to handle threats no one else dared face. What happened next would leave the entire town trembling in shock and awe. On the front lawn of a white, two-story house, a little girl giggled as her German Shepherd darted after a bouncing red ball. The dog, loyal and alert, was her shadow, her guardian, and her best friend. Neighbors often smiled when they saw the pair, knowing the dog was gentle and fiercely protective. He never strayed far from the girl, and she never went outside without him. That morning felt no different, until the distant hum of a police cruiser disrupted the peaceful routine. Two patrol cars slowly rolled down the street, drawing the attention of curious neighbors peeking from behind curtains. The German Shepherd's ears perked up, and he let out a single bark, alert but not aggressive. The girl froze for a moment, clutching her ball as the police cars came to a sudden stop. Doors opened, and two officers stepped out, their hands hovering over their holsters. The dog took a cautious step forward. What happened next would shatter the calm forever and turn an ordinary morning into the beginning of a nightmare. The German Shepherd stood firm in front of the little girl, his chest rising and falling as he watched the two officers approach. His instincts told him something was wrong. He growled softly, a low rumble that vibrated in the air, but he didn't lunge. The girl held onto his fur, her small voice trembling. One of the officers shouted, "Get back inside. Control your dog." His voice cracked with tension, echoing through the quiet street. The neighbors began to gather at their windows, sensing that something terrible was about to unfold. The little girl, frightened and confused, cried out, "He's not dangerous. He's just protecting me." But the officers didn't seem to hear her words. Or maybe they did and didn't care. Their hands were now firmly gripping their guns, knuckles white with fear or adrenaline. The shepherd barked, once, sharp and loud. It was a warning, not an attack, but the sound triggered an instant reaction. Both officers drew their weapons, pointing them directly at the dog. The girl froze, wide-eyed and trembling, as the metallic click of safeties being released pierced the air, the innocent front yard. Suddenly, it all felt like a battleground. The shepherd glanced up at the girl, as if sensing her fear, and stepped forward to shield her completely. And in that instant, the officers made a decision that would change all of their lives forever. For a fleeting moment, the street was silent, except for the girl's muffled sobs. Then, without warning, a deafening gunshot ripped through the air. The German Shepherd yelped, a heart-stopping cry of pain, and collapsed onto the asphalt. The little girl's scream followed instantly, raw and piercing, echoing down the quiet neighborhood. Blood pooled beneath the dog's fur, staining the street a dark crimson. The girl threw herself over his body, sobbing uncontrollably. Her small hands shook as she tried to press against the wound, whispering desperately, "Please don't leave me, please." The two officers froze, their faces pale as they stared at the trembling child shielding the injured animal. One officer muttered under his breath, as if realizing the gravity of what they had done, "Oh no, what did we do?" The shepherd whimpered softly, his eyes locking onto the girl's tear-streaked face. Even in pain, he tried to nuzzle closer to her, as if to comfort her one last time. The girl clung to him tighter, shaking her head in disbelief. Her cries louder than ever died in the distance. The sound of a roaring engine grew louder. A black SUV screeched to a halt, and a tall figure stepped out, his presence commanding immediate attention. Her father had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. The black SUV door slammed open, and a man stepped onto the street with the cold precision of a predator. His eyes, sharp and calculating, locked immediately on the scene before him. His little girl kneeling in the blood-stained street, clutching the lifeless body of her German Shepherd. The dog's blood smeared her hands and dress, and her screams tore through his soul. "Daddy," she cried, her voice breaking as she saw him. In an instant, the man was kneeling beside her, his strong arms wrapping around his daughter and the dying dog. His jaw clenched, and his entire body trembled, not with fear, but with a silent rage that made the two officers instinctively take a step back. They could feel it, a storm was coming. What happened here? His voice was low, dangerous, and calm in a way that chilled everyone who heard it. Then, One of the officers muttered, "Sir, the dog." It lunged. Before he could finish, the man's eyes flashed with fury. "You shot a child's dog in front of her?" His tone was ice, every syllable slicing like a blade. He gently placed his daughter aside and rose to his full height, his presence towering and lethal. The air grew heavier. Everyone now understood this was no ordinary father. This was a man whose wrath could change everything. The street was silent except for the girl's soft sobs. The man slowly straightened, his face like stone, and approached the trembling officers. His every step radiated the authority of someone who had led men into battle, someone who had seen death and delivered it. "You have 3 seconds to explain why my daughter's dog is bleeding in her arms," he said, his voice deadly calm. The younger officer opened his mouth, but no sound came out. The older officer stuttered. It lunged at us, sir. We thought it was dangerous." The man crouched down, inspecting the lifeless dog, his hand brushing over its fur. With a gentleness that contrasted his blazing rage, he turned back to the officers. "This dog has protected her since the day she was born. If he lunged, it's because you scared a little girl. And now," he paused, letting the weight of his words sink in, "you've made the biggest mistake of your careers." The officers were pale, visibly shaking under his glare. Then, with a single gesture, the man pulled a worn badge from his jacket and held it up for all to see. "Commander Daniel Cross," he said coldly. "United States Special Operations." Recognition flashed in their eyes, and terror followed. They now understood who they had just crossed. A man with both the power and skill to end their careers and lives, if he chose. The silence on the street was deafening, broken only by the girl's soft sobs as she cradled her fallen companion. Commander Cross knelt beside his daughter, his large hands gently supporting hers. He whispered, "He was brave, and he saved you." His voice cracked for the first time, revealing the pain behind his steely composure. He stood and faced the officers again, his glare sharp as a blade. "You shot a family member," he said, his voice low but deadly. "And you'll answer for it." He dialed a single number, and within minutes, 2 black SUVs rolled up. Military police stepped out, saluting him instantly. The neighbors gasped as the once fearless officers were escorted into custody. Trembling, the commander returned to his daughter, who whispered through tears, "Daddy, he was just trying to protect me." He hugged her tightly. "I know, sweetheart. He was the best boy." Together, they carried the loyal dog to the car, the crowd silently parting in respect. Later that night, under the soft glow of the porch light, Commander Cross buried the dog beneath the old oak tree he used to play under as a puppy. His daughter placed her small wheelchair beside the grave and left a single flower. The world now knew the name of the little girl and the lethal commander. And the officers learned a lesson they would never forget. Never harm a protector who gives his life for love.